Hi, and welcome to more race stories with Billy and Sam. Another hotel edition, this time with the bike in the background. So, we're going to review and tell stories from Edisto Island, which you can't actually see my hand. There we go. Edisto Island! This is an inaugural edition.
That means the first one.
Billy looked it up. So, moving right on to, I don't know.
Check-in?
Yeah, I feel like we should just tell the story and then just give the review as we're going, maybe?
Yeah.
Okay. We're organized here.
I mean, this on these independents. We're not doing as many bananas as we're just doing what the race
I
is
feel like
about.
we should give them some notes.
Okay.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Some notes.
Yeah.
Maybe pick up a pen if you are a race director. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. So we...
Check-in.
Yeah, that's really where we started our story. So we both drove to this race, which was a really kind of a welcome reprieve.
Note that Edisto Island has that. There's a resort there. Was it a Hilton resort or Marriott? Or
Yeah.
Whatever it was, there's a resort there, and they're like beach houses.
Did you even look at the resort? Did it have too many dollar signs? We did not stay there.
Yeah, we didn't. The problem is that if you don't do so it was a 2-night minimum. We were only going to stay one night. That was the deal. It was a 2-night minimum. We drove up on Friday or Saturday, and we were leaving the next day. We drove up on Friday. And we drove home on Saturday.
driving home.
I mean, I didn't want to, and it's like $200 or $300 a night for whatever. Plus you had to. Yeah, that's what it was. It was $300 a night. 2-night minimum, $600 if you wanted to stay on Edisto Island. Mind you, if you had booked this months in advance, maybe it was a lot cheaper. But I'm in charge of that, so I do it the week of. So week of, it was $600. That was too much.
To be fair, I got a call on this one. This he actually calls me and says, "Hey, I have a place. It's an hour away, and it's
$50.
$50 a night." Or we can stay on the island, and it's $600 minimum. It's like, I can round my time up, and probably there's no way to justify a 1 hour.
So, but the problem is since Edisto's an island, there's basically one road to get to it. The road's forever long. There's nothing between Edisto and wherever we stay. It starts with a W. Anyway. The nearest hotel was an hour away.
Yeah. The nearest cheap hotel wasn't it?
Right. I mean,
were there any expensive hotels in between?
I mean, there were other hotels in that area where we got our $50 a night hotel, but the only hotels or only places to stay on Edisto were a lot more expensive, okay. and it wasn't like there was a Days Inn or Holiday Inn or whatever there. It was just whatever this resort was plus VRBO type stuff. So whatever. We only wanted to stay one night.
So we check in to the race first. They've done a really good job there. That was a good.
Yeah, it was very organized.
They knew everything.
Got a T-shirt. Got the T-shirt that I showed you. Plus,
long sleeve, soft cotton.
And I actually like the T-shirt. I'll probably wear this a fair amount. And a fanny pack.
Yeah, this is the first bag that's a fanny pack.
Never gotten a fanny pack
on any race, so kudos to Edisto for surprising us.
And they were selling race belts, which incredibly is an excellent idea because the new people have no idea how beneficial a race belt is.
Yeah, you need to push that more.
Yeah,
so that was interesting. They also were selling ankle straps.
I don't
for the chip, so you could keep you're the first person to ever. I assume they wash them, but I don't really know how those things are actually cleaned, and I'm fairly confident not well. I mean, it's going on my ankle. I've stepped barefoot into a porta potty before, so we've already established that my feet are some sort of biohazard. So it didn't bother me, but it was an interesting.
Ironman allows you to keep theirs if you want it. Do they recycle it? It seems like I get.
No, they definitely recycle it, and they do not let you keep yours unless you can.
Well, you have to specifically. You kept your one for when it had Sam written on it.
Yeah, it had Sam written on it, so I told him it was mine, and it was. It's not mine.
I mean, it's a volunteer that's taking it off. If I wanted a race strap, All right, they give it to me.
Let's see. Let's try it. We'll try it on the next Ironman.
Next Ironman.
Game on.
Game on.
So
who gets to get out with their strap and who does not?
You got to come up with. Well, this will be a fun race. What's the best story you can come up with to keep your strap?
I wonder if you can keep your whole chip. I'm not going to do that to them. I mean, that chip's worthless to me, and it probably cost them $50.
I don't. The replacement fee is generally $25.
Okay, whatever. So it cost them $15.
So yeah, I'm sure it probably cost them less than $5. But
all right. So anyway, check-in was fine.
no, there. This was a 2 transition race.
Yeah.
This race director, brought to you by the same race director that started Beaches to Battleship.
So we did the
in North
review
Carolina.
for Wilmington, Ironman 70.3 North Carolina, which is in Wilmington, Beaches to Battleship. When she owned it, it was the Beaches to Battleship race. She sold it to Ironman, did the race directing for a year, and decided that it was not her race anymore, and decided not to do that anymore, and now has started this Edisto Island triathlon, which is basically a half iron or whatever.
Yeah, so 70.3
same
distance.
thing. So anyway, so got to meet her after the race was over, but did find out that day that it was the same people that had done that. So that was pretty cool. I mean, you never really think about who starts these races and how they get started. So that was kind of neat. Onto the swim, transition. 2 transitions.
So Billy finds out the day before, because you were talking to them, and I don't know. Apparently, the question was raised: "Hey, if we canceled the swim, would that matter to you?"
Because so I'm in there. I get there a little bit before Sam, and so I'm checking in, and I'm doing our spiel to it wasn't the race director. This was the timing coordinator, which is we're going to use as the race official because we're going to use her to sign our paperwork. I'm like, hey. We're setting a world record, blah, 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 blah. And she was like, oh, okay. Would it matter if we canceled the swim? Yes.
Yes,
it,
is the short
it
answer.
actually
If
would
you
a lot.
cut a tenth of a mile off of the bike, it would matter to us.
Yeah, so I was like, yeah, it wouldn't count for us. And she was like, I said, why? Is there a possibility? She's like, if the race was today, there'd be no swim. And I was like, I mean, you look outside and the weather's beautiful. I mean, the temperature's great.
Yeah.
It's sunny. It's not raining. I mean, it's beach windy, but
Yeah.
it's not
crazy.
windy or whatever. But for whatever reason, the waves, I guess, were massive, which we confirmed with other people that were there that day. We didn't go see them, but other people had gone out and they were like, man, those waves were awful today. We didn't figure there was going to be any way we could swim in them. Luckily, the waves had died down, and it was really nice when we got in the water.
Yeah. So, man, that was close. That was because all I could think is there was an Ironman race in California. And I was like,
How do we get from here to California and get signed up for it?
Can I get to California right now? So I was starting to do that math in my head, and it's just not possible. So,
What Ironman race was in California?
Oceanside.
No, that was the full. That was the week before or whatever, wasn't it? So they doing the 70.3 after?
There was definitely a race.
Whatever it was was kind of like, I mean, at this point we've set the world record, and so this one wouldn't count. But you'd want to make up this race somewhere else. I was already decided. I'd already planned. I was like, okay, well, if we don't race tomorrow, what can we do? And the Georgia-Florida game was in Jacksonville, which was 4 hours away. I was like, I mean, we'll find out by 8 o'clock. If we're not swimming, we can be at the Georgia-Florida game by 1 p.m. And the game doesn't start till 3:30. We're good to go. And Georgia smoked Florida, so it would have been a good game to go to.
Finally been a good game.
But luckily, we did get to do the race. So that was nice.
Yeah.
So swim was an ocean swim. They said that it was with the current. It was not much of a current.
No, yeah, my swim was within a minute of my normal ocean swim time. So it was probably, once again, some current, but yeah, not much.
I mean, I swam, so...
Had to be some because you saw them, they were coming around that buoy. So here's our pro tip of the day. Unless you're in the first group, and then you're screwed, watch the first group. So the way all ocean swims work is they go out to the buoy, they take a left or a right, and they go down the beach, and then they come back in. So what you can do is watch the inside people, the people who are lined up with the buoy straight out, and see if they're having to swim to the right or to the left, basically up current because they've gotten dragged down a little bit. So what'll happen is they've got to swim back up current to get around. So all you'll do is come down the beach or up the beach, whichever the way the current is going, and swim straight, and the current will take you around the buoy perfectly. So that's the advantage of starting later and not starting first.
So this was a wave start as opposed to a rolling start, so you didn't really have a choice. You were either in the first group or you weren't.
The first group was master swimmers, so you had a choice. They put all of the fast people in the very first group.
I thought masters was the age group. It was the masters.
Masters swimming is old people who. Well, I mean, we're now old, but
okay.
Yes, no, you're no longer in high school, college. You're now a master's swimmer.
So it's possible I swam closer to the shore than I probably should have. So it's possible that the current was better further out to sea. I don't know. Note to race director: 2 sighting buoys over a 1.2 mile swim
Into the sun.
are not enough. Not enough. You gotta have. I mean, Ironman puts out 16.
Yeah.
Like 8 yellow and 8 orange.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe you'll see 7 yellow and 7 orange, so 14. 2, not enough.
No.
And the problem with that is it's an ocean swim. I mean, maybe you can get away with that in a river when the current's taking you basically in a straight line. But this is an ocean swim, and so you've got to figure out where you're going, and there's waves. So you might. I was sighting so I was 3 strokes, breath on the right, 3 strokes, breath on the left, 3 strokes, breath on the right. Every time I came up on my right side, I have a little bit better stroke, and so I can look up a little bit better on when I'm swimming on the right. I look for the next sighting buoy. If there happens to be a wave, you can't see it.
Yeah.
If it's a half a mile away, it didn't matter. You weren't going to see it anyway. So all I could do was sight off of the buildings that were to my left. So we were swimming north, and so all of the buildings were to the left. And so all I could do is kind of vary my distance away from the buildings to see if I was swimming in a straight line. And then as you got closer to the sighting buoy, then you could kind of line up or whatever. You got to have more than 2.
Yes.
That was a tough swim, and it should not have been. I mean, it didn't take me. I mean, it took me. I think it actually took me longer than it normally takes me on a regular ocean swim. But whatever. You got to have more sighting buoys than that.
It's fair.
You got anything else to add on the swim?
No. They did. You noticed when you got to the soft sand, they had laid out the carpet.
Carpet was nice.
Ironman still has not figured that out. So kudos to the race director. First time, knocked that out of the park.
Yeah.
That's just such a tiny but huge thing. Like when you're going through that soft sand and you're not the first one out, it's super soft because everybody else has dug it in front of you.
Then they had a little kiddie pool at the end that you walked through, and you got the sand off.
Of note of that to the race director, if you guys could put it just a little closer to the bike, so they put it close to, I'm sure, where the water was. But then you ran through all of this grass to get back there. So, I love it. It's awesome. It was perfect. Just a little closer to the entrance.
I mean, you can't put it in transition because people are going different ways when they get in transition. But if you put it right at the entrance to transition, that's a little bit better because whatever you picked up after, because your feet are wet, they're naturally going to pick up whatever they can. And there was you could have put it right there at the entrance to transition. And helped out. Get in transition. So T1 and T2. T1 is just your bike and your bike stuff. You leave your swim gear, which I don't like T1 and T2 because I like to hang up my wetsuit on the bike rack, and then it'll dry in 3.5 hours, whatever you're on the bike. Especially at the beach with the sun out or whatever.
Tons of sand.
This one you shoved it in your bag. Which there's no way for it to dry out that way. I mean, kudos to them. They took the bag to the T2 and the finish line. So basically, at the finish line, you were able to get all your stuff.
Yeah.
And that was a better system because they can probably break down transition as soon as everybody's out on the bike. And it was a parking lot, so they could, the residents or whatever could use it as a parking lot. Although the the bike course went through there. So I don't know if they used it or not, but whatever. They can at least get started on breaking down transition. So transition 6 bikes per rack. It was there was not a number at each rack. It was just basically 30 to ours was 30 to 35 or 31 to 35.
Numbers per between the racks, and you could put it wherever you wanted. And I always liked that.
So it wasn't important that you went, 31, 32, 33, 45. You just somewhere on that rack, you just stuck your bike. And that worked out fine. I mean, there's plenty of room. I never felt crowded in transition. That was good. There were porta potties on the way out, and then you head out on the bike.
So, bike was rough.
Yeah.
You're on an island, and so I live in Florida. I live on a barrier island, that's what this is. Our roads are infinitely better than this, so I feel like I should be able to hold it to the same standard. But you go to the beach.
Your island is way more traveled than this island, though.
That's fair.
I mean, it took you an hour going down this road to get to this island, and the only people using this are vacationers.
Yeah.
So if you know that going in, these are beach roads.
Yeah, they're beach roads.
Island beach roads.
So they, having just come from Texas, they were not that disparate. They were fairly equivalent to the Texas roads, which is always frustrating.
Which is not a good thing.
But mostly, this bike had 4 U-turns on it. And that's important because it was a 2-loop bike, so you U-turned 8 times. I was not actually a professional at U-turns when I started the course, but by the time I finished, I was a master.
I was not.
No, that is not true in the least. This bike course needs to be rethought a little bit. That's way too many.
So the second part of that is every U-turn I've ever been in any race was a U-turn around a cone. These were not U-turns around a cone. These had a sign on the sign that said U-turn. There was a spray-painted X in the middle of the road with a circle around it, and you U-turned around the X. The problem with that is on the first U-turn, you just passed it because you're looking for the cone, and it's, 25 yards up, the road ends, or it turns into a sandy road.
Yeah.
And so you're like, okay, well, I guess this is where we turn around. Where you're turning around in the sand, I mean, the very first U-turn, the person beside me slides out because they're in the sand. I mean, didn't hurt them. I mean, they weren't going but like a mile or 2 an hour or whatever, but it was just kind of like, oh, are you okay? But then I ride back, and I'm like, oh, well, here was the turn right here.
Yeah, so once you figured that out on the first one, you knew to watch for it.
But not everybody knew to watch for that. And so the problem with that is you ended up going 0 miles an hour around the U-turn because either the person in front of you was going 0 miles an hour, or the person in front of you had passed it and is coming back, and you can't really turn. It was a narrow, narrow road.
It's not like they had chosen wide spots of the road.
And so you're making a U-turn, and you got to wait for this person to come back by. It was the day before, talking to the lady, the timer lady. She was like, "Yeah, I don't think the bike is super flat," and it was.
It was super
flat. I don't think it's going to be as fast as people think because there's a lot of turns. And not only were there those turns, and it's the beach, so the roads are kind of sandy. I mean, I'd recommend a backpack blower and blowing the sand off. But also the right turns. I mean, there was one turn where there was pine straw, and I was kind of nervous about going over the pine straw and catching. I mean, it would take somebody several hours with a backpack blower to clean this course. But that's part of being a race, right? Is you do that kind of thing. So there was a 1/4 mile stretch where it was brand new road going over this bridge, and it was kind of just a slight incline going over the bridge, and a slight incline going down. And so you did that 4 times because you went out and then you came back, and then it was a 2-loop course, so you went out and came back again. So that was 1 mile of the 56 that was very good roads. The rest of it was very porous, lots of potholes, lots of sneaky potholes that you hit because you didn't see them.
Yeah, they had painted some of the worst potholes, especially in the shaded areas. They try to recognize that. I will give them kudos to every single one of those U-turns had a cop at it. There was the more than adequate police. I would call it Ironman level of police support for this race. For a local race, that is very uncommon. These were open roads. An Ironman, gets the benefit of closed roads. But yeah, that's a huge kudos because that is not cheap. We've had them. Oh man, I don't remember what was that race that the volunteer left.
Yes,
and you've got to cross an intersection where there's actually
yes!
cars and it's a blind intersection.
These guys never left. They were there for the whole race.
Time.
I mean,
Absolutely.
that was good for them. So I didn't enjoy the bike, and the stick to this or whatever was they kept the entire race on the island. If you're going to keep the entire race on the island, this is probably what you get. There's probably the only.
I mean, we went out away from the beach area.
I'm looking at the map and I'm like, well, why didn't you just? Because some of these roads looped into another road. I said, well, instead of doing the U-turn, why don't you just do this loop? But you saw
sand
because you got to where the turnaround was and it was just a sandy road, and you're like, well, you're not fixing to send people down there. So getting 56 miles, even getting 28 on the island. I mean, this is just what you have. It's just know that the bike course is super flat, and you are not going to enjoy it. Which is kind of a shame, but that's just. I mean, it looks like that's just the way the island's set up, and unless they send you down that. I mean, really, that's the only other way that you can do it is go down that main road, and I don't think the traffic would be happy if you did that because that's the only way in and out.
Yeah.
And you had boats coming in and out.
Yeah.
I mean, just the time that we were on it, going from place to place.
Yeah.
I mean, I think they probably just did it the best that they could. But anyway,
maybe add a third loop to the bike and see if you couldn't fix some of the U-turns that way. I don't know. There's got to be something.
So you get off the bike. You get off the bike, and the bike transition 2 is at the finish line. And I mean, this was a small race, a couple hundred people, 180 people or whatever. And so it wasn't hard to get in transition and find your stuff. We get out, get on the run. I had passed you at some point on the bike. Maybe did you stop to go to the bathroom or something or? I don't know. Anyway, I was a couple minutes ahead of you. Anyway, we left transition together on the run, and it was Georgia Florida Day. I was ready to get done. I was like, man, I gotta be able to see this game or whatever.
Out of that thing, I had heavy legs, man. I was dying.
So we run. Typically, we've been staying together on the run. In Waco and. Well, I guess the Waco was the race that we'd done right before this. Sam had found him somebody to run with to give him encouragement, and so I'm running. I get to mile 3 or whatever, and Sam's nowhere to be found, and I'm like, where did Sam go? and you're going around this lake, so the run is relatively flat too. There was one kind of hill that you went over this dune or whatever, went into this neighborhood. And actually, I kind of liked the run, how it was laid out. It was a 2-loop run. You go in, you come out of transition, you go down a road, take a right, go down, you go through a neighborhood, come out of the neighborhood, go down, and then come back. So there was really 2 U-turns. One of them was more of a loop around this lake. So you can kind of look across the lake and see, and that's what I'm doing. I'm looking, and I don't see Sam. And I'm like, all right, well, I'll just keep doing this pace. My pace was, I was trying to hit under 6 hours, I think. I think that was my thing. Let's just get done in under 6 hours, and we'll be good. And then I come out, and I'm coming, I go out to the U-turn, and I come back, and so I know I'm going to see Sam here. And I see that he's a mile behind me, and he's talking to a lady, and I'm like, oh, okay, well, yeah, he definitely found somebody that he's running with. And so I just keep doing my pace or whatever, and I keep going, and then the next time I see you, you're not with a lady. And I'm like, yeah, but I'm like a mile and a half ahead of you, and I'm not fixing to slow down. so
no, the question was, "You all right?" And that was a quick yes or no.
You only get that one chance, man.
So
it was a yes. So
yeah.
I was like, all right.
Yeah, I was fine. I was just, oh man, I stopped to poop.
Okay.
It was amazing. Oh man, that was a construction porta potty too. So you've got to lay down the toilet paper. There's a whole thing. There's a process.
Okay, so now we know it took you so long. So anyways, Charlotte's out there watching this, and so I'm going around doing the second loop or whatever, and I don't remember what, I was under 6 that I finished in, but it wasn't some amazing time or anything. The lots of sun on the run, there was a little bit of shade to give you a break, but I would not call it a shady run. It was definitely a sunny run.
But it's so late in the year.
This
This is Halloween, so that's cold. I mean, it's
Yeah.
not cold, but the temperature's perfect for running, so the sun wasn't brutal.
Yeah.
So my recommendation for race fixes, if the neighborhood that we came into had a gated entry. I mean, it had a arm. If they could just have those arms up, would be a whole lot. You had
I'm
to,
thinking that was why they got permission to do that, was because they left the arm down, because I'm thinking that they were worried about people coming in there that didn't belong. But I mean, there's so many runners.
All of the runners coming back and forth didn't belong.
Yeah.
So there's no. I mean, you live behind a gated community. You've got your own issues. So I had a wholly different experience
On the run.
on the run.
Tell me about it.
So I found her, and she had a World's hat from Utah.
Okay.
So I was talking to her about it and see how things went. And she was liking it, and so this entire time I'm like, dude, I gotta go. I don't know if I can make it. Right? And I'm talking, and I'm trying not to think about. Like, I finally was like, you go ahead. I've got to stop off. So I stop and I come out and I come on this guy whose first race, and he is a med student in Indianapolis.
Wow, he kind of traveled to get to this race.
I know. That was my first question. I was like, so who dared you to do this? And he's like, buddies. I was like, did they actually do it with you? He's like, oh yeah, they're here. So they had the custom. They all had matching jerseys.
Okay.
Were those guys? So it was fun. So I was running with him. We were talking. He had nobody takes enough salt. So I don't know. Maybe I just don't believe anybody takes enough salt. But to be fair, nobody plans for cooler days and salt. So it's good. I bring extra salt taps here. Take these, and we'll keep going. So I'm running with him. We run past. So he's hurting, but determined to finish. So we run past these people who are in chairs, and they're drinking and cheering, and they're out in front of somebody's house. I assume their house, but I was like, "Hey, come on, let's trade." I know there's a U-turn at the end of this. Let's trade. You do this little segment. I'll sit and cheer. They're like, "Oh, come on, have a beer." I was like, "Well, on the way back." So I run, and I'm talking to him like, "Man, I sure hope they don't remember this on the way back, because we got on the way back when I pass them, we'll have 3 miles to go. I really don't want to chug a beer and run 3 miles." Come back, sure enough, we got your beer. They had a Mick Ultra, so I stop and chug a Mick Ultra. As it turns out,
did you see that again?
no.
Okay.
It was a little bit of gas for a minute, and then golden.
Okay.
So yeah, Michelob Ultra, the preferred beer of running. I think it's probably more water than anything else, to be fair, but.
Yeah.
That late in the race, I guess it didn't make a difference. But we're coming and we're finishing, and he's got it. I mean, he's hurting. I can see it. Come on, man. So I'm starting to go into drill instructor mode. Like, dude, we got half a mile left. It's like, come on, that's two things around. There's a guy 2 laps around the track. That's how I have it in my mind. Is how many laps around the track do I have left? And when it's 13 miles, it's a lot of laps around.
That is
the track.
a lot of laps.
But so there's the guy in white in front of us, and we're running, we're slowly catching him. I was like, come on, let's go catch that guy. That's a spot. And he hears me because I'm not quiet. I was like, yeah, man, we're coming for you. So he hurries up. But he's dying too, and we slowly run him down. And so this guy, we get to the finish, and he's now pushing, and he's pushing hard. Because, I mean, the instructions were save some for the finish line so that you look good crossing the finish line. You know, stop, do some makeup, or, you know, freshen up, whatever we got to do. It's your first race. You want to look good coming across. So sure enough, man, he cuts that corner, and he's got me. I was like, man, I'm doing everything that I can, and he's passing me. So I was like, let's not blow it out here. Let's slow it down just a little bit there at the end. But he did great. I had a blast.
Oh, good.
So it's a fun
So you
story.
did find somebody.
So yeah,
Somebody else.
I mean, in 200 people, I could find.
Oh, yeah. I know you could.
So once again, it helps to have a buddy. It helps to have somebody to talk to.
Yeah. After the race, I'm going to say there was plenty of food. It was all snacks.
It was so good.
It was so much candy.
It was
Halloween
a table
candy.
of junk food.
Somebody had gone to Costco or Sam's or whatever and gotten all of the...
There was full-size Reese's in there. The two, full-size Hershey bars. I'm sure there were actually more candy had we finished faster, but...
I actually didn't have any of the candy. I had a few of the peanut butter pretzels. They didn't have like pizza or sandwiches or anything like that. They had plenty of Cokes or Diet Cokes.
For a first-time race, that is a A-rated buffet. Plenty of sodas, plenty of waters. I mean, I still remember Bear Lake Brawl with the string cheese and the orange. So
see you.
Yeah.
Sponsored by an ice cream company, but our ice cream is in this cooler that we don't open for anyone.
No, they hid away.
Yeah.
They were holding on to that ice cream.
So not this race. We're talking about Bear Lake Brawl in Idaho.
Yeah, no, these guys had lots
good.
of food out, chips. Yeah, so they'd done a reasonable job considering it's a 200-person race. That was a good spread.
So we got to meet the race director after the race, and she was she from Wilmington? She may have been from Wilmington, so she had heard the story about the dude going over the rail or whatever. She's like, I know exactly where that was. And I don't see how he did that. We were kind of the same way. We didn't really realize how he did that anyway. If you're wondering what we're talking about, go back and look at our race stories from Waco and Wilmington. Guy went over a bridge. He survived. It was fine. But made for a good race story. And this lady was the one that had started that race, and so she knew about it, knew about the course and all that kind of stuff. So it was neat to hear her stories.
So drove back to the hotel.
Yep.
Watched.
And the $50 hotel was nice. I mean, we went ahead and paid for it for 2 nights so we can get a shower.
Yeah. Really interesting on that hotel. It was a family owned. You could tell.
Lots of plants.
But so not newly renovated, but well taken care of.
Yeah.
So yeah, that always interests me that there were worn out spots in the tub that had been refinished once, not from people standing, but from where they were cleaning. So they were doing a nice enough job. So
man, cheap hotels are not so bad.
Not all cheap hotels are bad. How about that? We'll go with.
Oh, okay. I mean, but you got to try a bunch of them to
finally find a diamond in the rough.
No. Just see that most of them are fine.
Yeah.
The vast majority of them are fine.
I don't think we can make that statement.
Bro, if you don't like my hotels, you can start making your own reservations.
I wasn't complaining. I'm not adventurous enough to make the hotel reservations. That's why you do it. Otherwise, I'd pay just ridiculous prices and not know the difference. So, hey man, we have a $20,000 hotel bill at the end of this. Just FYI. Also, room service is delicious. All right.
I think we'd have a lot different race stories if we didn't stay in cheap hotels.
I mean, it would. Bad decisions make for good stories.
If we weren't
I'm not saying anything.
being fiscally responsible with doing these races, we'd have never known that truck stop showers are pretty cool.
That is absolutely the truth. That is a major discovery. I don't know about fiscally responsible so much. It's just stinky. But yeah.
All right, so
we made it back to the hotel, out of the shower, just in time to watch Georgia score the majority of its points at the end of the second half. That was 2 minutes. Okay, they've won the game. Let's go home.
And that's pretty much what happened. I mean, they were up big at halftime. I think all the Florida fans had left the stadium, and so we felt comfortable driving home without having to watch it on TV.
Yeah. So, stay tuned next week for Oil Man in Houston. Thanks so much for watching. We really appreciate it. Say hi. So if you see us at the race, say hi.